Brilliance Audio presents Time to Hunt by Simon Gervais, performed by Bon Shaw. Dorothy Triggs closed her eyes. The night breeze coming through the open sunroof of the Lincoln Aviator soothed her. This late there was almost no traffic, and they were making good time toward the airport. She allowed herself a few precious seconds of respite, letting her mind roam free, and imagined herself basking in the sun on a deserted white sandy beach. It would have been nice to spend a few leisurely days in the Bahamas. Heck, even a few hours would be nice, she thought. But she couldn't spare the time. Not now. Not with Charlie Hennigan missing his recent check-ins. As the Deputy Director of the Directorate of Operations, the clandestine arm of the Central Intelligence Agency, it was up to her to find a way to re-establish contact with Hennigan, or at the very least find out what had happened to him. Her first attempts had been met with frustration and grief. None of the agency's contacts in the region had come up with any actionable intelligence on Hennigan's whereabouts. Turkey was a complicated country whose allegiances switched almost weekly. The geopolitical situation was even more complex now that Turkish dependence on Russian gas and nuclear energy know-how was at an all-time high. The Turk Stream, a natural gas pipeline originating in Russia that had cost more than 11 billion euros, was finally operational, and the Turkish president had threatened to shutter an American early warning missile defense system at Incirlik Air Base. Triggs had openly questioned Turkey's commitment to the Western Alliance with President Joshua Riley during their last meeting. Riley had only partially agreed with her assessment and had explicitly forbidden her to run any covert operations in Turkey. Diplomatic relations with Turkey are dicey enough as they are, Dorothy, Riley had warned her. Don't you go over there without telling me first. By sending Charlie Hennigan to Turkey, she had disobeyed a direct order from her commander-in-chief. That wasn't something she had done lightly, but to get to the Venezuelan narco-terrorist Jorge Ramirez, she'd been ready to shove a lot of chips to the middle of the table. Ramirez had been behind the distribution of a new ultra-addictive synthetic amphetamine pill that had killed young American athletes and devastated countless families. As if that weren't bad enough, Ramirez had recently acquired highly sensitive intelligence detrimental to the national security of the United States. And to me, Triggs thought. What she had done and tolerated in order to oust the former Venezuelan president and replace him with Colonel Arteaga, someone the CIA had at least some degree of control over, wouldn't be seen with a kind eye by the American public. To keep congressional hearings at bay and safeguard all the progress they'd made in Venezuela, Ramirez had to be stopped. He had to be put down. Permanently. It was why she'd sent Hennigan to Turkey after Ramirez, and why she was in the Bahamas now. To secure the help of Pierce Hunt. With him, she could offer the president complete deniability. If, God forbid, everything failed and Hunt was captured or killed, she could use the ex-DEA agent's reckless past against him to distance herself, the president, and the United States government from anything that happened in Turkey. What do you think Hunt will do? Seated next to her in the back seat of the Aviator was her son, Max. He pecked on his laptop keys in his signature two-fingered way as he spoke. He has no choice, Triggs replied. He owes Hennigan too much. Don't you agree? I'm afraid so, Max replied dryly. Hunt, a former Army Ranger, was the ultimate operator. He didn't need to be babysat, and he wasn't in the game for the money, unlike most of her assets in Turkey. With his unfailing loyalty to his friends, Triggs knew he was the right man to go after Charlie Hennigan. The fact that Hunt had crossed paths with Jorge Ramirez before was also a major plus. The problem was that Hunt technically worked for Tom Hauer, and the administrator of the DEA wasn't known to share his resources. Hunt wasn't a full-time DEA agent anymore, but he and his friend Simon Carter were valuable assets to hold in reserve, so Hauer kept them on retainer. They partnered with the CIA on an operation 4 months ago, the one that had led to Jorge Ramirez's escape, but Hunt had nevertheless impressed Triggs and her colleagues. It had been a gamble to take a day and fly unannounced to the Bahamas to meet with Hunt, but the meeting had gone as well as she could have hoped. After a moment, Max stopped typing, closed his laptop, and set it aside. He looked over at her. What is it? She asked, sounding a bit impatient. She knew her son. Something was bothering him.